Hi, Insights from Inside by Global Consumer Banking at Intellect. We are here yet again with another intriguing conversation, something to explore new, something what's happening more and innovative in the space of technology, joined by our CIO, Prasanna of Global Consumer Banking Intellect. Prasanna, welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Mithu.
Great. So I think Prasanna, just as we start our conversation, you'll stay in a very, interesting space. You're the CIO of a global consumer bank for Intellect. Being in a technology space, you interact and meet a lot of bankers from across the globe. A lot of CIOs, CTOs take you as a consultant and opine on what's next in there. Can you share what are the challenges that they've been facing? What is it that they don't enjoy that you do?
That's a very interesting question. Um, I believe a typical bank CIO manages the technology for the business, while Intellect has given me an opportunity to manage the business of technology. That's the fundamental difference between what I do here as a CIO vis-a-vis what a bank CIO normally does. With respect to their priorities, challenges, I believe most of the challenges come around running the shop, running the bank, and changing the bank at two different velocities concurrently with a constraint on the budget. So, this is a typical challenge, and they have to make the best choices considering not today but into the future. And while taking such decisions, they need to really apply not just the judgmental opinions, but also a very collective wisdom in terms of where they are putting their money for the next few years rather than for the next few quarters. So, this is where the investments are getting constrained or getting scrutinized, while Run the Bank takes the full and undivided priority with respect to running today, tomorrow, and the after.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's also about like you're able to prioritize innovation, technology, and keep being at the helm of whatever's coming new and designing for new. As a bank CIO, I think the very first thing that they are doing is they're starting off on a back foot. They're starting off with really managing the show why innovation is a stride much forward ahead of it, right? So how do they bridge this gap? How do they work that those steps?
I would look at it as a very complementing function. A typical bank CIO has a real challenge, a real problem to solve. All they need is a method to solve it correctly and consistently. We specialize in creating the methods and uh, ways to solve the problem the right way so that it gets addressed once and for all. So they bring us the use cases, the priorities, and we work with them together in terms of solving it into the future.
It's interesting. You talked about priorities. How do you really help them prioritize the right needs? Because technology as well needs to be moved in a in a way that bank can keep adopting, keep delivering according to that. So how do they prioritize today?
Most of the technology initiatives are centered around how do I enable business growth and continue to keep running a little ahead of the business growth priorities without compromising on the regulatory aspects and the regulatory compliance needs that are often evolving, with a very clear view of the security posturing that is taken by the particular bank. So, any investments are prioritized based on these three vectors, if I may put it that way.
So I think, Prasanna, as we are talking about the the prioritization at the CIO's end, it also leads with when we really start working along with a lot of banks as projects. The goalpost keeps moving, the imperatives, the prioritization, and it's due to happen because these are large projects to work on. So how do you solve for it? How do banks solve for it together?
It's an excellent question, Neetu. The way we look at it, the longer the duration of a project, the more the changes that we have to accommodate. Because if you peg it against the business growth priorities, the evolving regulatory needs, and the security posturing, they also introduce certain things that are unstated during the creation of the original transformation program. And in order to accommodate all of that, I think we need to be a flexible partner in our journey. And we have become very resilient, flexible partner because the way flexibility happens, in my opinion, should be substantiated by the architecture that we use. And the way we bring in the flexibility in our architecture is through the emac.ai construct that takes the paradigm of flexibility, the need for staying, listening to the customer's needs, very different because we are able to take the right kind of decisions even during the course of a program, during the course of a project, rather than staying very rigidly that this is what we would be able to do. So that flexibility comes from our architecture.
And what makes that possible? What part of architecture or what part of designing, as we say, is a heart of what we do? What makes it possible?
Sure. The larger the block size, the lesser the maneuverability. Now, if you are going to create multiple sets of smaller blocks or smaller components, and if you are able to chain them through a standard, and if that delivers a value, you will be able to change the way you construct a Lego block or you rearrange something to realize a different shape or an interim shape before you go into a final shape. And this flexibility comes from how you rearrange or arrange your blocks. Now, these blocks, you may look at it as a business capability, how the business capabilities are realized through a certain set of logical components, and how these logical components are physically implemented and packaged through microservices. And this gives you the full flexibility for you to arrange.
So, what are these blocks that you're referring to?
Well, um, typically from an intellect parlance, we look at a business capability or a prepackaged business capability, the term PVC that we very frequently use, is a collection of microservices, and each microservice is a collection of APIs and events. In a different sense, it delivers a specific set of business capabilities. Now, if you take certain specific business capabilities, you take only them because the fine grained aspects of this microservice with a domain completeness. For example, if I take a microservice or collection of microservices, they provide a complete functionality, a complete end to end user journey, rather than trying to say, I need to bring this also to make the entire solution bloated or very complex. Now, we have, over a period of time, achieved a sense of fine grained microservices that are substantiated with an architecture that is event driven, a packaging that is completely domain driven, microservices based. The entire concept is created with the API first mindset, conforming to cloud native application development paradigms, remaining agnostic to CSPs, and delivering the entire package in a headless model. So, giving this kind of a construct has taken some time for us to go through this motion, but once we have arrived, I think we have differentiated ourselves.
So, Prasanna, every partner is talking the same language. Every vendor, every tech provider is talking the same language of Mac. What is it that you differentiated with this?
I would say, while others are talking, we are doing it, and we have done it. I always like the tagline of Nike, just do it, but we have just done it. We have taken it to the next level.
What does it mean to a bank?
What does it mean to a bank? We have enabled several banks now based on the emac.ai architecture with this kind of flexibility where they only take what they need, not what the partner wants to give. Now, with this, what we are establishing for the bank is you have a mechanism where you have a supply chain available in front of you and a platform that enables the entire supply chain of your capabilities. Now, what capability you want, you enable them, you activate them. Today, you want to start with a particular capability, and progressively, you want to take the second capability and third capability. That flexibility is completely with you because of the architecture. Now, with a typical anybody talking about Mac as a principle, the fine grainedness the finiteness, the catalogable capability. This is where we differentiate. If you really look at it, we have a set of catalog capabilities, and these capabilities can be consumed today. We are not saying we are going to do it. We have done it. That's the difference.
That's interesting. And I think you also and we had hosted Raju earlier in the show. And what we realized, he was connecting Iman.ai to also be able to enable open finance as a platform. So if you can share a little more, one, how we are able to offer open finance as a platform, but more importantly, what does it mean to a bank? While it's becoming a regulatory framework and it's coming into it, but what are the opportunities it throws in, and how is Iman.ai enabling banks on this?
The way I would put it is, a open finance takes the servicing to the point of need rather than a point of service. So that is a full transformation a bank has to go through with respect to their ability to service at the point of need. And the need could be in the palm of the customer where he or she is using a mobile app. They are trying to do certain cinema ticket booking. And then they are basically looking at integrating with a bank's payment API. Now, for all of this to come together, the fundamental platform or the capability used by the bank should allow this, should extend this. And there may be branding related extensions, there may be validation limit related extensions, and they have to be dynamically configurable. And these are all the aspects that are essentially becoming a very important aspect when you want to take a service from a point of service to a point of need, because the need keeps changing, need keeps evolving, and there are different segments of customers that have different types of need. Now, when we are trying to match the point of need, how versatile that you are going to enable all of this, and how you are going to structurally support this with an architecture, that's where emac.ai comes in. Because you're natively API, you're natively event driven, and you're natively elastic with respect to cloud nativity, and then you natively stay headless. With these kind of nativities, we score ahead of others because others have to do it, others have to make it, but we are there to do it.
So, Prasanna, you spoke about the capabilities being enabled, right? But what, as a bank, are the new opportunities or competitive advantages that this solution can offer to them?
Excellent point. Now, assume that there is a person with a need. At the point of need, the person has a choice. And this choice includes whether he or she wants to exercise a loan, or he or she wants to look at what are the possible interest rates that they want to verify before they actually take a decision, whether it is a deposit or taking a loan, whatever it is. Now, all of this is available with an open finance kind of a platform, because you are trying to address at the point of need with a set of capabilities. Typically, these capabilities come not only from banks but from anybody who's providing a financial service. So now, with this anybody giving a financial service, some of these service providers can be customers of the bank, and there may be back-to-back interactions to actually enable or activate its service. And all of this, without being seen at the point of need, gets activated, and that requires this kind of an architecture.
Okay, that's the way, and I think one very important element that no conversation can end today when we are talking about technology is AI, right? So, what avatar of AI has intellect brought in, and what is it that you would leave behind for adoption of AI? While it's been a conversation, but there is skepticism, but there is interest. So, how do we bridge that gap, and what is in it that you're already up to?
Internet has taken a slightly different position with respect to how do we enable AI. We have taken a platform approach. We call this platform as Purple Fabric. This platform will be an adjunct platform to our OLTP solutions, where there is a very nice way of dialoguing between the OLTP platform and this kind of a AI agentic platform. Now, these two platforms coexist, cooperate, collaborate to solve multiple business problems. Now, what do we solve here? When you're dealing with structured data and instant responsiveness, we deal with OLTP. When you deal with different types of data, including structured data, any type of unstructured data, any kind of data that is not owned by the bank but sourced from outside, but you need those kind of contextual information for you to target or to basically highlight, personalize a specific aspect to the point of need or a point of service. That's when we bring in this AI. Now, our AI capabilities have evolved as well. We started with the typical MLOps or doing the automation of repeated uh, aspects of work or work packets. Then we extended it to augmented AI with respect to how we can start looking at patterns using AI on either the work patterns or the data patterns and how do we curate them. Then we are at a stage where we have now become a full agentic AI, and all of this without any of the other components, the business capabilities, knowing or noticing that these capabilities run on the urgent Purple Fabric platform, and all is leverageable by our business platforms. So now look at the power. AI is an evolving technology and it is fast evolving at that. Now, safeguarding how our products are going to benefit from that without knowing about how this evolution is going to affect them. That is the brilliance of this two platform strategy where we have taken all the business capabilities in a particular way and this is not AI in the linear provides us an urgent platform to actually remove the full agency or expert capabilities and whatever in the next few years if there's a new variation that happens this is AI that I'm here to really affect you.
So actually, it's an interesting take that we are taking in here is that we are bringing in the user need to leverage a platform and create solutions for future.
You got it right. The way we want to do it is once you are used to a specific type of capability, keep changing that capability to deliver the same level of that capability becomes a mess. So, what Purple Fabric addresses here, irrespective of what is the evolution of the AI, the level of service is guaranteed because that is completely a black box for my business application. Why? The level of service is guaranteed, the actual capabilities are enhanced, and additional expertise is being brought in without the knowledge of any kind of change to my business service. That's the kind of concurrent platforms that we are taking.
So now that you made future possible with AI, what is it it's in it for banks to leverage AI for innovation in whatever they are doing? What are the use cases? What are the areas where they should look at using and leveraging AI as a platform?
My personal take here is I believe AI will democratize the knowledge as a first step. I see a huge possibility once the knowledge pockets are unlocked, the knowledge is become democratized. I think banks will realize the full potential. Today, they are constrained by the knowledge availability, the knowledge pockets, or specific departments can only do this kind of work, that kind of work. So if you completely unlock the kind of scale, the location, and how it can proliferate with of course the regulatory aspects, the controls and the governance attached to whatever needs to happen the right way,
Yeah.
but you're unlocking the complete potential of bank's own knowledge, or if I may call it as enterprise knowledge garden, EP. We are able to enable that enterprise knowledge garden where the knowledge thrives, and in any business that knowledge is going to differentiate, and that knowledge when it is available in a very free flowing way, the bank's own ability to refresh, retrain, get people onboarded, get their services further qualified, that becomes a art of possible. So I'm looking at why there are a lot of personalization, a lot of customer experience related aspects that are happening now. I believe that the middle and back office functions will reach not from an operational efficiency perspective alone, but on unlocking the knowledge. That's where I believe that the next few years of benefits are to happen.
That's very helpful. And when we are talking about all these new technologies, every bank, every credit union are at a completely different stage of progression, of growth, of evolution. What is it that some CIOs, some banks are doing better than others?
If you broadly look at most of these credit unions, since you mentioned, they operate more like a specific community. So they 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 address specialized needs of certain communities, certain regions, or certain locations, or geographic aspects. So, or if you look at any kind of bank that is trying to have a digital presence, basically they are taking themselves to a point of need. From a point of service, they are going to a point of need. So, by and large, if you look at it, most of the CIOs have a very specific way of addressing a point of need, whether it is a community based service for a collective purpose, where these are all the 5 or 7 needs identified, and a particular credit union addresses the point of need, but in a conventional way. Or a digital bank that comes in, or a digital bank promoted by an established bank, it wants to be in a last mile connectivity to the point of need. So at the end of the day, the way I see is they're addressing a point of need. From that point of need perspective, how you are going to enable your technology, your services to become easily usable, amenable, and that makes a fundamental difference. And I believe that's an area where the focus will shift now.
Okay, that's interesting. And do you see this paradigm across all the countries? Because being in a global role, you actually have a view on the advanced markets to the diversified customer profiles that the banks are catering to. Do you see that as one brush paint all, or how do you see it?
There are variations, but the fundamental concept is point of need. Now, open finance addresses in a particular way, credit unions address it in a particular way. Now, look at it. A certain aspects of open finance enable for credit unions that will address in a particular way. So, the way we are looking at is, how do I enable my point of need capability? How do I enable my alignment to a open finance paradigm or a construct? How do I keep my architecture flexible, whether you want to go this way, that way, or in a hybrid way? That actually is the fundamental differentiator we are looking for.
Okay, so what about speed and performance and security? Because I think that is one thing we've not talked about around eman.ai, right? Does the design of architecture, does the solutioning for a bank need also reflect in terms of the speed and operational efficiency and security that we are able to offer?
The way digitization brings about is, it basically makes a lot of unbanked inclusive, and they become fully banked. For even UK is a fitting example. Now, when we are bringing these kind of solution, especially digital transformations happen, that increases the amount of workload that is transferred to the bank's own backyard, or the product processes. Now, these product processes have been working like a typical executive in the olden days, working to a time. Now, time is elastic, and there is no start of day, end of day, no such constructs exist today. Now, if you look at a digital kind of a bank, they always want, I'm 7 bar 25 24 bar 365. So to address those kind of needs, they always bring in unplanned workloads, unplanned volumes, and the peak volumes that were in a controlled environment is very different from the kind of volumes that you may expect in this kind of digital world. To address all of this, what we are trying to do is, we have in our emac.ai architecture benchmark our current set of services to anywhere between 9 and 10,000 TPS with a mix of transactions, which addresses predominantly a very large band's requirement. Now, can we do more? Yes, we can. Should we do it now? We don't see that need right now, but do we have enough juice left in the architecture? Very much. So, at some point in time, as the old adage about testing goes, you don't stop testing, you quit testing. Same way, with respect to performance benchmarks, we have taken a very realistic position of benchmarking it against a very realistic and double of that realistic load.
Mhm.
Typically, about 4,500, 5,000 TPS is very large volume in any tier one bank. Now, you benchmarked it for the double of it, and I believe we can continue to do that. But let us first get there. That's the pragmatic approach we have taken so far.
Absolutely. And I think this actually answers the efficiency part of it, right? Now, if I talk about the scalability of AMAC, you have delivered multi-country, multi-location solutions across multiple countries, multiple banks. So when you really look at some of those, how is AI being leveraged?
We are basically looking at multiple aspects. If we can look at the overall capability of the system comes with multi-tenancy to start with, so I can coexist several smaller packs who can subscribe for my service. Then I have multi-time zone. That means I can work with a bank that transcends multiple time zones, but they can run on a single system. Then we have multi-country solutions where if you take any solution that needs to be run consistently across multiple countries because it's a very specialized solution, let us take liquidity for example, and we need to run it on your multi-country multinational bank, let us say operating in 50 countries, the same experience with respect to the business accuracy and the business functionality that needs to exist across 50 countries, that is delivered. Then you also look at various other multi aspects, as you rightly said, multi currency, multi technologies, technology stack, multi cloud, including
Multi-language.
multi language. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Multi language, because as you keep moving, the multi star, if I may put it that way, this multi star is a very important capability, and the capability is enabled through the architecture first. And this gives us not to nitpick or do certain things at the individual component or a microservice level. It comes to us from the architecture. The architecture governs and then enables the entire platform for these multi-stack.
So, Prasanna, talking about the CIOs, you being a consultant, right? While pushing for innovation, there has to be a balance between innovation and our technology, our financial stability as a bank. Where do you say no?
So very, very important question, B2. The way I look at things, if a system has established its credibility by means of giving accurate results, staying reliable, any change to that state of accuracy, state of reliability should be maintained. And any change to that has to be cleanly verified, certified, curated. And if there is a conflict in terms of rushing something that is already very, very accurate and that accuracy is needed for the bank's business to place their confidence in the actual systems, that's a big no for me. And when we introduce, there are times where we need to take certain conscious bets. And the way we approach, we basically enable something, we call it as the coexistence approach or the coexistence framework. In industry parlance, from an infra perspective, it is known as a blue green. Blue green, in the sense you introduce a change very, very quietly to a specific limited set of audience who can experience that change. And if it is accepted, then you start enlarging the actual impact. We practice that based on our architecture. We bring in something known as a coexistence framework. This coexistence framework introduces any new functionality or alternative way of establishing the same functionality as an additional feature, a coexistence feature that coexists with the current running, accurate, stable, reliable functionality. Now, we start slowly toggling either a segment or a specific type of use case to that newly added capability. Once it stabilizes and the credibility is established, we transition the larger workloads to the kind of functionality. Sometimes this is a very cautious approach, but this cautious approach ensures that the stability is not compromised, the resilience is not compromised. And that's where I, the moment I feel that we'll not be able to do this very, very controlled transition, that's a big move for me, whether it is product or technology.
That's very interesting. It leads me to a following question, Prasanna. When you're actually talking about coexistence, you're calling while you're keeping in mind the stability aspect and the security in terms of that there you're not challenging or putting a risk into a transition as a process, but you're also expecting a bank to commit those additional resources, investment, time, which may not always be a feasible option. So how do they really work through this? How do they even sign up for this model?
We have seen certain initial green shoots with respect to using digital workforce, where some of the agentic or expert agents that we create using AI, they are able to help us with some of the very specific pointed tasks. And we believe we can extend the art of possible there. We can actually deploy them because they are going to be available 24 across 7. They are going to be elastically scalable. They are going to be consistent with respect to their way of operation. So it's not uh, you don't have to train many times over and over again. There are no language nuances and this and that. So I'm really looking at how the digital workforce can actually augment some of the specific tasks and that can be actually performed by the digital workforce effectively.
That's very interesting because you also mentioned digital workforce in terms of AI when we were talking about leveraging AI, right? Because obviously, AI, one of the important things that you mentioned was of optimization of resources. How does that connect the dots?
When um, I would rather put it in a sequence. We are talking about AI coming big in terms of democratizing the knowledge. Once the knowledge is democratized and it is available, cataloged as an enterprise knowledge garden, let us say. Now, how does it get proliferated or how it gets utilized? Mhm. The utilization can be human in loop. The utilization can be agents or expert agents, and what you need for which purpose. That's where some of the judgmental calls happen for scale, availability, and remote accessibility. I may go with a digital workforce. Availability in the sense it is needed to be available at extended hours and things like that. Whereas there are certain specific use cases where you need human in loop, where you go with that human in loop kind of model.
Perfect. That actually brings me towards the end of our conversation today. Is there anything that you may want to share, or is there some specific futuristic changes that you're seeing coming up in the financial space that you may have witnessed already in some part of the globe, or you're seeing that to be a fast changing trend around us?
I'm looking at more and more financial services or financial institutions morphing itself into various other enablers. For example, you may not you may not realize that you are using a banking service when you're doing a particular activity or a particular aspect, but you're using. So the ability for a financial services institution to manifest and morph into various aspects of presenting itself in points of need, points of activities. I think that's where the next level of technology enabled transformations will happen. And what we are seeing now as a digital transformation or enabling or performance of open finance or security is all various stages of getting there. The final outcome I'm seeing towards like in the you don't touch and feel a financial service, but you get serviced.
You experience it.
You experience it.
You're living it today.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much, Prasanna. It was really nice to have your conversation and learn so much about what's keeping us going in the technology space. Thank you for tuning in and staying with us. There's lots more coming in on Insights or Insights, so keep watching this space. Thank you.